Hi guys, I'm PUTSY. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see from the title, I'm going to talk about all the books that I've read in the month of October 2021 or the Halloween season. By the way, October hasn't been very kind to me for my skin personally. I have a lot of acne, big cystic acne currently, and it hasn't been a huge problem for me for the past year. It usually only happens during that time of the month, but this past month my skin has been just very wild. I don't know what was wrong. I think it was the combination of the weather, what I've been eating, and also my mental state. It's just haven't been very kind for my skin. Not that I gave any excuse because acne is normal, but in case you're wondering, I don't know what happened. October also hasn't been very good for me in terms of my reading. Well, it actually was better than September. July and August are my strongest yet in terms of reading this year. Last month I was only able to read like 3 or 4 books, and then this month I managed to finish 5 books, but 3 of them was an audiobook. So I feel like that was kind of cheating, and it's a mixture of romance and some spooky Halloween thriller kind of books, which is very fitting for October. At least I managed to finish some thrillery books. So as per usual, I'm going to mention all the books in chronological order based on the time I finished the books. So the first one is actually It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. It's an adult contemporary romance, and it's actually part of a soon-to-be series, the Bellinger sisters series. I kind of forgot how they pronounce her last name, but I'm guessing it's the Bellinger sister. It's kind of like the Brown sister series. Each book is going to talk about different sisters and their own romance story. The first book is about Piper Bellinger. She's the oldest sister, obviously. This is the first book, and her reputation as a wild child means the paparazzi are constantly on her heels. She loves to party, post every single party she went to Instagram, and so she's basically kind of like a social media influencer, but at the same time this is also not really her job. She just is a very rich kid. Everything in life for her comes to her very easily. Her stepdad is a very famous director in Hollywood. She hasn't really worked once in her life, but then one day she has a very kind of like a messy breakup, so she decided to have this huge party just to forget the breakup that she just had. But because of that, her stepdad is finally have enough of all of her actions. He decided to ground her, ship her away to this very small town where her paternal father was from, in a place called Westport, in order to kind of give Piper a lesson so she can learn some responsibility. Her late father was actually a fisherman, leave her this dive bar in that small city, so she will live in that small town, live in that dive bar. And the very first moment she got there, she actually bumps into Brandon, the local fisherman, the captain in that town. There's an undeniable attraction shimmering between them. Piper doesn't want any distractions, especially feelings for a man who sails off into the sunset for weeks at a time. Yet as she reconnects with her past and begins to feel at home in Westport, Piper starts to wonder if the cold, glamorous life she knew is what she truly wants. LA is calling her name, but Brandon and this town full of memories have already caught her heart. So Brandon was actually the type of guy who have a very set routine. He doesn't like distraction, he doesn't like changes. In this book, we're going to follow along Piper's journey, her finally having some responsibility, do something, experience life to the fullest, not just in a shallow sense, distance herself from all the glamorous life in LA and actually get to know herself, get to know people, socialize in a way she has never truly experienced before. She will also learn a lot about her past, her father, and her families from her father's side. And on the other side, Brandon will also start to learn to open up, accept some changes into his life. Both of them will try to be honest with their own feelings and pursue this relationship, this undeniable attraction. Obviously, this relationship will have a lot of struggles because Piper being Piper, who doesn't know how to live outside of LA, while also Brandon doesn't know how to live besides the way he always knew how to be in Westport. So They will try to find a common ground and learn how to compromise. It's actually, well, it's not really the first romance book that I listened to in audiobook format. I think the first one was The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren, but this one is actually a lot more spicy. It's full of smut, and I didn't know about that going into the book, so I was kind of shocked at how visually just how full of smut it was. It made me uncomfortable because sometimes I listen to it in public and I was like, wait, what was it that I was reading? I feel like I'm fourth wheeling or something because there's obviously Piper and Brandon and the person who narrates the story, and then there's me. I felt so out of place, but if this is the kind of book you like to read or listen to, then look no further. This is going to be a fun read for you. It's very fun and very easy to listen to. It has a lot of funny moments and I truly enjoy my time reading it. It's just a little bit shocking for me at first, but there's something that I didn't like, especially the first part of the book. The way Brandon described Piper made me a little bit uncomfortable because he talks a lot about her physicality, her appearance, like, oh, she's like this, and then look at her legs, and then look at her body. Like, I just don't like when men describing women like that. It makes me uncomfortable in real life. It makes me uncomfortable even in book fiction format, especially since it already started way before they have any kind of relationship, and I just don't understand how Tessa Bailey can write something like that and put it into male's perspective. But it does get better once Brandon finally have a relationship with Piper. He actually voicing them out loud in front of Piper herself, and we get a response from Piper. She actually likes when Brandon talks to her like that. You guys are in a relationship together, so it's up to both of you how you want to talk to each other. Yeah, the pacing is really good. I love the progression of the story. Overall, I enjoy my time reading it or listening to it, and I gave it a solid 4.5 stars. And yes, I will be reading or listening to an audiobook of the second book once it comes out. I think it will be released sometimes next year. I already know who it's going to be about. It's going to be about the sister and also the other guy that also already present in this book, so I cannot wait to know how their story is going to be. The second book I finished in October was actually another romance audiobook, and it's Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. Like I mentioned before, I listened to The Soulmate Equation in August, also by Christina Lauren, and I quite liked that, but it wasn't extraordinary. I mean, it's not bad. The storyline itself is very unique and promising, but I just don't like the twist at the end, and the characters felt a little bit one-dimensional and too perfect in my opinion, so it was obviously not a 5-star read. But this one, I gave it a 5-star. Much better than Soulmate Equation, at least for me personally. I love it so much. Before I talk about the books more in depth, I just want to ask you, if you have read any other books from Christina Lauren, what books in your opinion is the best from them? Is there any book that is actually better than Love and Other Words, or is this actually their best book? Because if there is another book out there that are better than this one, then I obviously need to read that. So last month I actually read People We Meet in Vacation by Emily Henry, and I do feel like it has a very similar, not setup, but like the structure of it and the story has a lot of similarity to this one. So I don't know if Emily Henry find inspiration from this one when writing People We Meet on Vacation or not. It's basically about two people who have been best friends for years, but then one day something really bad happened and it made them have an strange relationship. They don't talk to one another for a long period of time until one day they meet with each other again, and they both are determined to fix their relationship because they cannot live without one another in their life. They love each other dearly, and the main thing that kind of obvious from the start, the thing that breaks their friendship has been their feelings for each other romantically. That aspects of the story from both of these books are obviously very similar, even though the characters are obviously very different. The dynamic in their friendship is also different in my opinion. So the timeline in these two books are also quite similar because both of them have two timelines going on throughout the book at the same time. We're going to move back and forth each chapter. So we have a current timeline from the very moment they finally meet with each other again after years apart. part, we're following them slowly build their courage to finally address their issue and trying to fix their relationship. And the second timeline is we're going to follow along their relationship from the very moment they've met with each other. We're going to see their friendship and relationship building up. At one point, both timeline will finally address the big issue, what actually happened that made their friendship breaking down. In that aspect, it also has a little bit of mystery because obviously we don't know what it was. So we're going to spend a huge chunk of the book trying to figure out what happened, make a lot of guesses, while at the same time witnessing their relationship blossoming into what it was. This dual timeline just works perfectly for this kind of story, and I love that about these two books. But this one, the ending, even more tragic than what happened in People We Meet in Vacation. Very heart-wrenching. It made me cry. It's very tragic. Breaks my heart into a million pieces. That rarely happened with me when I'm reading. I'm quite emotional when I watch movies or something, but when I read, it has to be like very sad and emotional to be able to make me really cry, and this book did that. In this book, the main character hasn't talked to one another for a decade, whereas in People We Meet on Vacation, in like 2 years. So obviously something really bad happened in this book. It's just a sequence of bad luck. A lot of bad things happened in one night. Well, I don't really remember the main character's name, but just know that I love their friendship so much, but I also love their romantic relationship just as much as their friendships. And this book is called Love and Other Words because one thing that bond these two main characters is actually their love for books. They spend a lot of times with each other reading. They love to ask one another, what's your favorite words? And they explain why, and it's just small things that made their relationship even more wholesome and meaningful in my opinion. I feel like I'm not explaining what this book is all about properly, but just read the synopsis yourself on Goodreads and see what it's about. The characters are a lot more complex, more interesting than the characters from the Soulmate Equation in my opinion. I love the side characters as well. Pacing is incredible. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this book. Even if I do have something that I don't like, it's not comparable to how much I love them. I don't even remember if I have any complaint for this book. It's just amazing. So yeah, 5 stars from me. Finally, a physical one. It's Legendborn, and it's very high on my TBR for 2021. I've been wanting to read this book, especially because of the cover. Just look how gorgeous this book cover is. It looks magical. She looks strong and powerful. Her face and the red and the blues are very striking, and I've also heard a lot of great things from a lot of booktubers, but I've been waiting for this time of year to read this book, and I feel like it's very fitting because it's full of magic, it's full of monsters. So our main character's name is Brie Matthews. Her mother just died in an accident, so the 16-year-old Brie Matthews wants nothing to do with her family memories or childhood home. A residential program for bright high schoolers at UNC Chapel Hills seems like the perfect escape until Brie witnesses a magical attack her very first night on campus. A flying demon feeding on human energies. And there's also a secret society of so-called Legendborn students who hunt the creatures down, and a mysterious teenage mage who calls himself a Merlin who attempts and fails to wipe Brie's memory of everything she just saw. The mage's failure reveals Brie's own unique magic and abilities, and it also revealed a buried memory from the night her mother died. So she started to ask questions. What is it, the connection between the night her mother died and this night? What's the connection between her mother to the Legendborn? Obviously someone wiped her memories that night. Obviously the work of another Merlin. She will do whatever it takes to find out the truth, even if that means infiltrating the Legendborn as one of their initiates. She recruits Nick, a self-exiled Legendborn with his own grudge against the society, and their reluctant partnership pulls them deeper into the society's secrets and closer to each other as well. But when the Legendborn reveal themselves as the descendants of King Arthur's knights and explain that a magical war is coming, coming. Ri has to decide how far she'll go for the truth and whether she should use her magic to take the society down or join the fight to fight this war between the Shadowborn or all the monsters and the humans. So it is a fantasy book, more like an urban fantasy because it is set up in our real reality, in our world. Tracy Dion also managed to incorporate a lot of things from the real life about racism, about a lot of injustices that people of color faced in real life, to the story of this highly secret society called the Legendborn. Or no, the society is not called Legendborn, but people in that society is called Legendborn. It also incorporates stories about King Arthur, and it's just the way she managed to mesh everything is very impressive in my opinion. She made it feels like possible that this kind of society actually exists in real life. You know, this old secret society has been obviously filled with a lot of white rich people, but then obviously her joining it shake the boat very hard. She will make a lot of changes. Obviously, the representation in these books, the characters are very wide. We get people from a lot of different background and race, the LGBTQ community, also people who identify themselves as them or they. I love the representation so much. The world building is amazing. The magic system, the characters, the storyline, just everything about this book is freaking fantastic in my opinion. And I know they will have another book coming out, I think next year in this series. I cannot wait for that. I'm kind of scared of the second book though because the ending. I just hope Bree's relationship with this other character will stand strong against all of these things that might happen in the second book. There's obviously some romance involved in this book, and it has a lot of different tropes involved. Triangle love story, insta love, and hate to love trope. So if you love all those three tropes, this book is perfect for you. I don't know how I can explain this book even further. Highly suggest you to read this one if you haven't already, because this is honestly one of the best fantasy books that I've read this year, and I give this book a very solid 5 stars. So the next book is another audiobook, and this book has been everywhere in booktube, bookstagram, even booktop maybe I believe. It's The X-Hex by Erin Sterling, because it's obviously just based on the cover and the title itself. It's obviously a very hocus pocus Halloween kind of books. It's not really my favorite book, but it's just a very fun book to read, especially during October. The tagline for this book is never mix vodka when you're trying to cast a spell, especially when you're trying to hack someone, because it will go south very quickly, and it obviously did. 9 years ago, Vivian Jones nursed her broken heart like any young witch would. Vodka, whippy music, bubble baths, and a curse on the horrible boyfriend. Vivi knows she shouldn't use her magic this way, but with only an orchard hayride scented candle on hand, she isn't worried it will cost him anything more than a bad hair day or two. That is until Rice Penhallow, descendant of the town's ancestors, breaker of hearts, and annoyingly just as gorgeous as he always was, returns to Graves Glen, Georgia. What should be a quick trip to recharge the town's ley lines and make an appearance at the annual fall festival turns disastrously wrong. With one calamity after another striking Rice, Vivi realizes her silly little ex-hex may not have been so harmless after all. Suddenly, Graves Glen is under attack from murderous, wind-up toys, a pissed-off ghost, and a talking cat with some interesting things to say. Vivi and Rice have to ignore their off-the-charts chemistry to work together to save the town and find a way to break the breakup curse before it's too late. So, like I said, it was a very fun, exciting, spooky read for October, but I specifically love the audiobook. The one who narrates this story is really good. They have an accent. I don't know what accent it is. I think it obviously is Georgia's accent, but in my mind, the way they talk is the way witches should sound. And it made the whole entire journey listening to this book even more fun than it already was. But I also feel like we don't get to explore our main characters more in depth. But I still love the plot. We get a lot of very funny magic went wrong moments, spooky and funny and exciting scenes in this book. It still has some smart scenes. It's not as crazy and as wild as it happened one summer. It's very safe to listen to anywhere. I don't have a lot of things to say about this book other than it's a very fun rom-com novel. I mean, I know it's October already passed, but even for November and December or just the winter time, just the vibe of this whole book, it gave me a very warm, cozy feeling even though it's also kind of spooky. I just imagine snuggle with your blanket, lighting up your candle, maybe even listening to it or read the book while you're having your own bubble bath, just like the main character did at the very start of the book. It's a very fast book to read and to listen to, a very fun pick-me-up kind of book. It will instantly lift your mood. I give this book a solid 4 stars. So the last book that I've read in the month of October is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, or Michaelides. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he also wrote The Silent Patient, which is also another book high on my TBR, and after reading this book, I really want to read that book even more. Another highly anticipated book for me for this year. Also been waiting for this time of year to read this one, even though I pre-ordered this book long before it was released, but I'm so glad I hold off. It's a perfect thriller book for this time of year. It's thriller, full of mystery, some murders involved, but I also have quite a mixed feeling for this book. I love the first to middle part of this book way more than the ending, but we'll talk about that later. This book is set up in Cambridge University, and then there's Mariana Andros, a brilliant but troubled group therapist who become fixated on a murder case in Cambridge University because it involves one of her niece's best friends, Tara, her niece called Zoe, and Mariana herself was once a student at Cambridge. Mariana decided to be a detective for this case, trying to find out what actually happened because she actually suspects Edward Fosca, a handsome and charismatic Greek tragedy professor who is adored by staff and students alike, particularly by the members of a secret society of female students known as the Maidens. And that is very disturbing and suspicious, to say the least, especially because all of the girls who got murdered is part of this group. So we're going to follow Mariana in trying to solve this case. I don't know what kind of authority she have, like it's not her job at all, because obviously there's police, detective, and a lot of qualified people involved with the case, but she just took it upon herself to trying to solve everything because it has something to do with her niece's friends. Yeah, sure, you went to this university, but at the same time, why? I feel like in real life, her action could potentially destroy a lot of evidence. But hey, if she didn't do that, we won't have a story in this book. It's full of twist and turn, especially in the middle of the books. I love that. It kept me guessing, and not once did I manage to get it right because wow, the ending, the reveal was actually so far from what I was expected, and I actually don't like it. I mean, sure, it is a thriller, so I shouldn't be as disturbed as I was. Even in true crime in real life, that sort of thing is possible to happen, but I guess it's not just the revelation but just the way it was revealed. It didn't satisfy me. It felt kind of rushed. Like Alex really didn't give me enough time to process the ending, let them sink in, because the pacing of the book up until that point is perfect in my opinion, but all of a sudden it ends kind of abruptly. Also, I don't like the epilogue part. It actually left me with even more questions than giving me any sort of resolution. Like it doesn't really resolve anything. It just felt a little bit unnecessary, unless we will get another book that has something to do with all the things that happen at the epilogue. But other than that, I like the writing style, the thriller aspect, the mystery aspects is very good. It's unpredictable. Just a lot of ingredients to make a good thriller mystery book is present in this book. The set, the scenery on this book, the visual of it is very vivid because obviously this book is set up at Cambridge, and the writer himself, Alex, also went to Cambridge, so obviously he managed to give us a lot of details about the place. Made me feel like I was there, and that's actually one of my main favorite thing about this book. It also has a little bit of callback to the Silent Patient characters. This book is actually set up before the Silent Patient. It was a very fun callback. I feel like it will made an even bigger impact for me, or like it would be more fun for me if I have read The Silent Patient. Yeah, I should have read The Silent Patient first, but no matter because it didn't reveal anything, didn't get any spoilers. Now I even more excited to read The Silent Patient, especially because this actually have been quite polarizing. Some people hate this book, some people like this book, some people like The Silent Patient more than this one, some people like this one even more than The Silent Patient. So I just want to find out myself where I will end up with, and for this book I gave it a 4.2 stars. So those are the books that I have finished in October, but during Halloween week I actually tried to finish 3 books. I only managed to finish The Maidens obviously, but I also start reading this one by Grady Hendrix, The Final Girl Support Group. I've been hearing a lot of interesting thing about this book, and the cover, like sometimes a good book cover made me want to read the book even more, and this one is one of the case of that. And I'm now currently on page 36, and I'm also currently listening to another audiobook. It's The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. It's also been very amazing. It's actually a sapphic romance thriller, which is, I haven't read many books in that kind of realm, so I'm super excited to finish it. It's a very long one though, it's like 11 hours or something. So if you want to know what I think about those 2 books, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel and watch out for my next November wrap-up read. But for now, that concludes the video. I hope you like it. Give this video a thumbs up if you do, and lastly I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope I can see you in my next video. Bye guys!